Mike who? No. Next item is approval of our agenda.
Move to approve. Second.
It's been moved and approved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in, or is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Recognitions. Bryce.
I have several.
Mike.
There he is again.
All right, I think we're on. First of all, last Friday, I just want to give props to our cafeteria staff. They had about 30 minutes to realize that we had closed campus lunch instead of open campus lunch. Typically at the high school, we serve 25 to 35 kids a day. So they went from that to 220 in a very short span of time, and they handled it really well, and were able to get food prepared for a large amount of people that they didn't expect. So just thank you to everyone in the cafeteria last week, because that was not an easy task, but they made it look easy, I guess. Then student council hosted a blood drive today. So just kudos to them for supporting the community and that need in the area. It's always a nice event that they put that on and provide that for our community members. Winter sports season's closing up, so just big thank you to Alicia, Carey, and all the workers for all the different events for basketball, swimming, and wrestling. Just a large undertaking. That winter sports season is very long, and so thankful to everyone who steps up and puts in time either in a paid position or in a volunteer position. It takes a lot to make all of those things go on successfully. And then I just want to recognize Adam Mertman. He's the new guy in the maintenance staff, and I think he's doing a wonderful job, and I'm just really thankful for everything that he's doing for us. So that's what I have. Thank you.
Karen.
All right. I know you guys got an email about Special Olympics, but I just wanted to give one more big shout out. So our athletes, Daniel Bickford came home with 3 silver medals, Cody Stith, 3 bronze medals, Rena Carr, 1 silver and 2 bronze, Matthew Carr, 2 silvers and 1 bronze. Ava Williams and Andrea Garcia went as student volunteers for the area games, and they represented a bunch of different groups in the high school. Chad Austinson, he's our ski coach. And then we had a number of volunteers go with him this year. So Sally Cord, Robert Miller, Brandy Marshall, Crystal Benson, and then Candy Stanton does all of our scheduling and paperwork behind the scenes as the other Special Olympics coach. So.
All right, last week at the elementary, we celebrated reading in Dr. Seuss all week. I think you guys might have seen that in the newsletter, but Friday we got to have some special guests in the building to read to our students, and it was pretty fun to see everybody there. So I just wanted to recognize Betty Sample, Linda Tisdale, Laura Giesler, Stacy Jones, Paul Patterson, Don Ramsey, Eileen Vickers, Betty Petronic, Chairman Mantavigi, and Trustees Gordon and Bell for coming and reading with the kids. They loved it. So, and then also for Elena Liggett, she organized all that and got the schedule together and contacted everyone. So, and then I'd like to recognize Janet and Mike Hutchinson. They brought treats for our staff today, and it was much appreciated. And then, of course, we have some special guests here today, but I'm going to let them introduce them. The teachers introduce our kiddos. And then also I would repeat what Bryce said about Adam. He's done a really nice job for us getting started. So thank you.
Thank you. And we all. Great.
Hopefully, probably taking it away from somebody, but if we could have a moment of silence for Mrs. Jones, if we could, please.
Thank you, Suzelle, for touching thousands of lives. Anybody else with recognitions? Tyler.
Thank you. On last Friday, in addition to the kitchen staff, I would just let everybody know we actually had a successful middle school dance. So that's a big one too, let me tell you. But I would recognize Leslie Morris because otherwise we just don't do them. And the kids love them. If you have middle schoolers, you know, and she really is key to that. And then along those same lines, especially last Friday, I would recognize our SRO, Kelly Moran, and the Newcastle PD. We had a presence the whole time at the dance, and that's always helpful again, but especially with everything that was going on last Friday, really appreciated them. And then we do have 6th and 7th grade boys basketball players that were on Coach Peyton Watt's team that were the district champions for basketball. They brought home the title from Sundance. And then Mrs. Bartlett asked me to recognize, once again, we've got some published poets here. So I have a group of 7th graders last year, current 8th graders that were published poets. Dominic Ankeny, Brooklyn Guzman, Ethan Parsons, and Abby Tacey. And then also at the high school level, for what I think is the 4th year in a row, Presley Fitzwater is another published poet that continues to write and get those things published and works. So recognize those students too.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
Billy.
I'd also like to recognize Mrs. Back, Mrs. Wienia, and Mrs. Haynes. From what I understand, they all obtained their master's degree. So I'd like to recognize them.
I would just like to recognize everybody who had to deal with another really stressful lockdown situation with a threat that turned out just the way we want them to turn out, with no one being hurt or injured. And I can't imagine what it's like for you guys when you were in the school and that happens. I left the grade school just a little bit before it happened. And so you guys show your heart and soul in those situations, and it truly is appreciated. So thank you. Brad, do you have anything tonight? Okay. We will move on to our first visitors, who are our first grade readers.
Parents for photos and grandparents. We need to come up here to video or photo. Or if you like to look at the back of their heads, we can do that.
Yeah, you're welcome to come up behind us so you can see. And
Sit in the chair so you can pop your hands up.
if you guys will be sure and introduce yourselves so we know who's reading to us. Any-
There's one on the, yeah, there's one on the chair. All right. Yep.
That's great.
Wonderful. Mrs. Ealer's reader for tonight is Jeremiah Peterson, and he's going to read Toad Makes a Road. So enjoy JJ's book. You're up, JJ.
Toad hops happily. She had a new house on the hill. My new house is best, she boasts. Toad waits and waits for the truck to bring her things. Time ticks on. He's out of luck. Where is that truck? Is the truck stuck? Toad hops down the hill. She's in luck. There's the truck. I can't get up the hill. The load will spill. There's no track for the truck, so Toad brings her things up the hill. Toad is tired with one last hop. She flops into bed. Next day, Toad eats toast. Today is my party, but only Billy the goat comes up the hill. It's far too steep except for me. What a sheep. What you need is a road, Toad. If I need a road, then I'll build a road, says Toad. But toads can't build roads, says Billy. That's silly. Wait and see, says Toad. Toad clears a track. She then lays black sticky tar. She steamrolls it flat. She road Toad's road is ready. Toad rode to Toad's house. Everyone welcome. Now Toad's in luck. There comes the truck.
All right, and I have Lexi Sadler, and she is reading Buzz, Said the Bee.
Once there was a bee who sat on a duck. Quack, said the duck. There's a bee on me. And the duck said, scat, but the bee just sat. So the duck quacked again and sat on a hen. Cluck, said the hen, there's a duck on me. And the hen said, scat, but the duck just sat. So the hen danced a jig and sat on a pig. Oink, said the pig, there's a hen on me. And the pig said, scat, but the hen just sat. So the pig took a bow and sat on a cow. Moo, said the cow, there's a pig on me. And the cow said, scat, but the pig just sat. The cow began to weep and sat on a sheep who was fast asleep. So the cow said, moo. And the pig said, oink. And the hen said, cluck. And the duck said, quack. Then the bee said, buzz. And that's all there was.
Okay, this is Summer Virchow, and she's going to read How Do You Hug a Porcupine?
How do you hug a porcupine? Can you hug a horse? Of course. A cow with arms around her neck, that's how. A dog or cat is not so hard. Just hug them in your own backyard. Hugging buddies is just divine. But how do you hug a porcupine? Can you hug some billy goat? Entice them with a bag of oats, and surely you can hug a pig. Just spread your arms out extra big. With baby chicks, be sweet, be kind. But how do you hug a porcupine? This prickly fellow won't be easy. My stomach's feeling kind of queasy. He wears a coat of thorny quills. To hug this one will take some skill. A hedgehog is a little prickly. An ostrich is a little tickly. A chimpanzee will hug you right back. I've never tried to hug yak. A giraffe requires quite a climb. But how do you hug a porcupine? An elephant, please hug his trunk. I wouldn't want to hug a skunk. A kangaroo just hopped this way. Don't let the dolphin slip away. A panda probably wouldn't mind, but how do you hug a porcupine? You must go slowly, never hurry. Porcupines aren't soft and furry. His quills defend him from his foes, but I'm his friend, he surely knows. At last, hooray! It's finally time. This is how you hug a porcupine. Carefully.
Okay, my reader is Samantha Baker, and she chose a book from our reading series, A Visit to a Coral Reef.
Coral reefs are fantastic. A coral reef is like a big city under the sea. If you could visit a coral reef, you would see fish swimming and plants floating. You would see lots of sea animals. You would see live corals. There are lots of different corals at the bottom of the sea. Corals can look like rocks. Corals can look like plants. But corals are not rocks or plants. Corals are little animals. Some corals have skeletons on the outside. The skeletons are like shells. When the coral dies, the skeleton stacks up like bricks. Sand plants and other corals settle on top. That makes a coral reef. This is a coral reef. This is a coral. This is a coral skeleton. The skeleton helps keep the coral animal safe. This is the coral animal. It pokes out of the skeleton to eat little plants and animals that drift past. These plants and animals are so little you cannot see them. Flash. Big fish swish in the coral reef. Wish. Little fish zip. The silver fish glitters as they zigzag past. An octopus drifts along the reef. It is looking for lunch. When the octopus floats past, the crab scrambles. Some fish blend in with the coral as they swim past. Other fish blend in with the sand at the bottom of the reef. Can you spot the fish? Parrotfish spend lots of time eating in the reef. The parrotfish has teeth that can crush coral shells. Crunch. A reef squid has big fins. It flaps its fins when it swims. Uh-oh, a big shark swims in the reef. Little fish scatter, big fish scatter. Will the shark catch a fish? When the sun sets, the reef gets dim. Some animals rest, not corals. Corals poke out and wiggle and swish and nod. Fish are not the only ones who like coral reefs. Divers like to visit coral reefs. There is lots to discover under the sea. Would you like to swim in a fantastic coral reef?
Thank you so very much. This is one of our favorite nights of the year as board members because we get to hear you guys read. So we're going to come around. We have some little prizes for you and some certificates and we want to thank you. So just say right there. Give them time to clear out.
Sorry.
All right. Do we have any other visitors' comments tonight? Hearing none, we'll move on to action items, consent agenda.
Make the motion. Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Old business, the high school golf proposal. So everyone should have we had a list of questions and that Bryce helped us develop. And we do have some answers. So would you like to help us go through that? Or Carrie,
I can.
or both of you? Okay, so our first was, does the High School Activities Association add sports to catastrophic insurance for each school during the year, or is the enrollment period only at the beginning of the year?
So what we found out from the WHSA commissioner was that it's got to be added by the start of the sports season. Golf officially starts on March 25th. And so approval after March 25th would result in, us not participating until the August golf season.
Okay, is there a High School Activities Association deadline, which we learned is March 25th?
Yep.
We understand too now that Scott Beeler is not currently certified as a head golf coach. Is that correct?
Correct.
And let's see. One of the other questions is, will the board require 3 readings to add this as a sport? That is what the board did when adding soccer. So I believe that it's only fair that we would have to do that as well. Everyone. If we did that, it would mean we'd have to finalize approval by April 10th. It requires 2 practices before being able to compete. Meaning April 13th would be the first day they would be eligible.
And so that makes it ineligible to be a spring sport in 2024.
Let's see, we did that. So talking about paying the coach, high school soccer had 4 probation years of volunteer coaching, and students and families paid for overnight stays. So if we continued to be consistent in that, that would probably be what we would want to ask for. The budget, we hadn't really talked about what the cost would be. But that's how we did soccer. So it wouldn't be fair to soccer if we allowed another sport to start without doing the same thing. Does anybody have anything to add to that? We had a question about if there's junior varsity and can a school enter two teams into a tournament? So it was our understanding that there was 5 on a team, each team, there has to be 5, right? Because
Yeah.
they score 4.
And I guess I would
Or
defer
there,
to,
there has to be 4 to score.
yeah, I'd defer
have to
to
be
Brad
5.
and Wyatt on that.
There has to be.
Correction, Mrs. Chairman, it's you bring 6 and score
Bring-
5.
okay. I knew there was that wiggle room of having an extra. I wasn't sure what the number was. As far as sustaining participation, I think that's what that 5-year probationary period is about, to show that it can be sustained. I think we would probably also want, if you want to proceed, we'd want to see a list of, so that we know we have enough students, an actual list of who would be wanting to do it. As far as the coaching needs, then are we talking about a head coach with assistants, or would there be like a head coach for varsity and JV? Just one is what they thought. Okay.
It was interesting when he was removed. There's quite a few people that will remember my comments at the time because it came after Ogden reportedly, I guess you should say, because it was reported and then they claimed that he claimed that didn't happen, but we all saw the letters where he made the chairmans of the board sign that we're going to do this and that and the other thing, and we're not going to disobey. And
we're not going to disobey. I love that. I love that part. We're not going to disobey.
pretty much that's what I got
Yeah.
from it. Reading it is, aye, Captain, we will follow your rule. It kind of made me look a little different at Driscoll. And then this year's made
Well,
it
and you
even-
didn't just look different. Come on. You gave him a nickname even.
I gave him a nickname. He was saved in my phone still to this day as Dictator Driscoll. And I still don't feel bad about that because Weston County hasn't seen him once leading up to this session.
Just one is what they thought. Okay. So then we would have to determine if we ended up with a season with fewer than 5 participants, do we cut it for the entire year? Like middle school soccer in 2021, 12 kids signed up, but we required 14. So there was no soccer, middle school soccer that year. Then we talked about equipment and we said, if a student is McKinney-Vento status, it's a requirement of the district to supply equipment, team bags and shirts provided by Pinnacle, practice and range balls for high school golfers would be free at the country club. And we weren't sure about what kind of entry fees there are for tournaments. Do we know that? Okay.
Hey, Joe,
Yes.
I have one question on that. Sorry, thank you.
I have one question on the equipment deal. What if we have a student, and this is hypothetical, of course, but what if we have a student or students that want to sign up for golf. Their families are not financially able to pay for a set of clubs. And I have no clue what a set of clubs cost. Do we just exclude them from the golf, or is it going to be the school's responsibility to buy the clubs? Do we rent clubs? That's my first question, so I guess I'll go with that one first.
Yeah. Thank you, Brad.
We've talked to
a bunch of members at the country club about trying to get some of the people to donate some clubs, clubs they don't use, trying to put sets together. There is some rental sets of clubs out at the country club. But generally speaking with golf, because the clubs are fit to the person, that, kids that are considering playing high school golf have generally been playing and got their own set of clubs. You can get into clubs fairly cheap, but there's also going to be kids showing up with very expensive. Sky's the limit on how much you want to spend on a set of golf clubs, really. But you can also go get a set of clubs for $150, as far as a school, giving clubs, that's up to you guys, but I don't see it as being an issue between us gathering up clubs and people donating for the high school team at the country club, that we'll have clubs for kids that if they want to learn the game of golf, we'll have some spare equipment for them.
And I guess my second question is, and right now the country club, and they're going to donate the facility for the students while they're out for the sport. What happens in 2 years that they don't? Say something changes, and I don't know what that would be, but what if they don't donate that? I don't know. Do most places donate all the green fees and stuff for the students in the school?
Generally speaking, if it's a school sponsored activity, yes, they let the kids practice for free or use the facilities during the season. Now that doesn't count during the summer, but during the season, generally they all let the team practice. Yes.
Okay.
Thank you, John. Thank you, Brad. Bryce.
I just wanted to clarify McKinney-Vento status, and maybe not everybody knows what that is. That's for the official term students in transition, and it's students in transitional housing. And so maybe their family had financial issues where they can't afford a home any longer. Maybe they fled from a domestic abuse situation in another state and came to our state. So if a student comes into our district and is placed on that status, they're on that status for the entire school year. And any school activity that they want to participate in, it's the cost of the district. And right now we have a decent chunk of McKinney-Vento money because of the COVID relief money, but that's all going to be gone in September. And when that's gone, since we're such a small school population, the money that's set aside for us for McKinney-Vento is very small. And so considering covering the other academic needs, and taking care of students in that way, buying golf clubs through McKinney-Vento so they could participate, that would wipe that money out very quickly. So I just wanted to, I know you're probably all reading McKinney-Vento status and wondering what it means. So I just wanted to clarify what that means.
Brad.
I've got private donors. We'll take care of that.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so we have the list of current 3A member schools. Does anyone have any comments or questions about that? And I'm not going to read all those to you unless you all want to know. Do y'all want to know? It's pretty much the standard state 3A list. Yeah. Regarding if a student wants to participate in football and golf. It's my understanding that they cannot participate in football until golf ends in the fall. Okay, so they would all know that. State golf for 3A has to be an 18-hole course, so we would not be able to host that in Newcastle. Pardon? Not state, right. Oh, Tina.
So, I just want to go back to the football. I have a couple of comments and questions maybe too. One question I have is if they start after it gets over, then how long do they have before they can actually play football? Because don't they have to have like
10
so many
practices?
practices and then so many without pads and with pads? And I mean, I don't play, so.
Carrie can tell us
but-
this.
Well, I can speak to that.
Microphone.
Do I need it?
Thank you.
I don't feel like I need one, but okay. So after a sport is over, you have to have 5 practices in the next sport if it's a consecutive sport. So if you played basketball, for track, you have to have 5. With football, you have to have 3 practices and 2 pad days, I believe. So it's the 5 if it's consecutive like that.
That's not as much as I thought. Thank you.
So when does the season end in the fall?
Generally, right around the 15th of September is when state is.
Okay, so then another week after that is
Yeah,
kind of
like-
what we're looking at.
I think the Upton kids that played golf and football this year missed their first 2 games.
Okay,
I was gonna say,
okay.
let me look at the calendar real quick. For September. So the 15th would be on a Sunday, so probably they're done the 14th this coming year. Then practice Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. So yeah, they would probably miss 2 or 3 games. Because don't we usually have one in August? Okay. Okay. A coach has to be PTSB certified as a head golf coach, and it's my understanding that Mr. Beeler is not currently certified as a head golf coach. Has he said he will obtain that?
He told me he was, so I'm assuming that he would when I talked to him.
And then any volunteers would have to go through the volunteer program to participate. Does anybody need some clarification? Do we have more questions? Carrie?
Just going back to the coaches and
Sorry. Just going back to the coaches' salaries, and I wasn't here for the last meeting. I did zoom in. But if we have boys and girls and they're going on an overnight trip, you're going to want to have a boys coach and a girls coach. And so that's an additional either head coach or assistant coach.
Jason?
Do we have any female coaches lined up, or any of them have said they would volunteer if the need arises?
I didn't contact any of the female coaches because as of right now, like for the interest meeting and stuff, we didn't have any girl golfers show up. So I didn't reach out to any of the female coaches to see if they're interested until we find out if we have any female golfers interested.
Dana?
Do we need a female golf coach or can we have just a female chaperone?
you can have a female volunteer, it's fine. An assistant, or even if they do the care and prevention, they can be like a coach's aide. You know, it's just difference in pay, but it just would have to be a female that went through the process to be able to spend the night.
Thanks for that clarification. Any other questions, concerns? Tina?
I'm just wondering about, do we have enough kids in our district to support another sport? And I know that you can play both, like I know that, I mean, I get that you can play both football and golf, but I also know that I would think as a coach, it kind of puts you in a weird spot where you've got your team, you're ready to go, you've played probably, I mean, by September, if you're talking mid-September, you're talking 3 or 4 games. So you've had to play without those students for that amount of time. And now you've got all these kids coming back in. I just don't know how I don't know how those coaches would feel about that, but I also don't know what that would do to our teams that are currently there. Whether it be football or whether it be cross country, because those are the two that we offer.
Spring soccer too, I think.
Well, yeah, and then spring's a whole different thing too.
Yeah, volleyball and girls.
Oh.
Volleyball, girls swimming, cross country, football,
In the fall.
and then this would be a 5th. And I just don't know, I mean, my concern, I guess, is that, is our district big enough to handle that? And then my second question is, in a year that we have gotten such a big, or that we're getting a big increase as far as the insurance goes, like the other insurance that we're going to be getting, and we have such a small class coming in to kindergarten, when you think about how much of a difference that is going to be in terms of where we're going to be at as a district, I wonder about that too. So.
Thank you, Dana.
Brad, do you think we're hitting some kids that don't typically go out for football, soccer, cross country, or are we picking from the same group?
I would say you're gonna get a little bit of both, but yes, golf, you don't have to be 210 pounds and built out of muscle and can run the ball. So you do get some kids that don't fit into some of those other sports. That golf gives them an option to compete in something that they can't run fast and, aren't big kids, I guess. But you also have some very athletic kids that can play golf well. So a little bit of both, I would say.
Paul?
Just 2 things that I gotta say I think I like about the idea of having golf. The first one is as a person who was injured in high school and has 2 kids that have had injuries, golf seems to be a pretty safe bet as far as if they want to continue to play a sport. And what I really like is for kids that have trouble with team sports, the only 2 things that the kids are going to be competing against are themselves and that scorecard. And I like that. I think that's important that those kids can look in the mirror and say, if I want to be better at this sport, it's on me, nobody else. So those 2 things, I think it could be a real good opportunity, even though we don't have our huge numbers, for those kids that want to do something different. Maybe they have been injured. I don't know. I do like the idea that this is their sport to improve as they can.
Sean?
I just got a question on that. So when you start out in football, you go through some pretty intensive practices. I mean, for 10 days. So what worries me, do we know what the statistics are out there for golfers at other schools that went to play football? What's the injury rate? Because 5 days just don't feel to me it gives enough time for them to go out there and pad up and start playing. So, and I guess another thing that I see as being a football player, And I'm out there putting all the time and effort in for the first 3 to 4 weeks, busting my butt to get on a team. And then a golfer comes in about a week or two later and doesn't put the time in. I mean, that's I just got this feeling it's gonna cause some conflict. That's just how I see it.
Brad.
Sean, I guess after coaching football and then playing a lot of golf, if a golfer comes in and only a week of practice takes your spot, then your practices won't help them.
But do you know hold on. I understand it. Okay, we got that. All right, you got me on that one. So do you know the injury rate from golfing and then you go right into playing football? Do we know anything about that?
Yes, I haven't looked at any national statistics or anything. I know, I believe 3 of the golfers off Upton's team went and played football as soon as the golf season was done. I believe they were all starters and didn't get hurt, but that's the only one right around here that I know the kids and coaches and could watch happen, I guess.
So I will say for me that we're a little late starting this for this year. That's one of my biggest concerns is our timing for this year. The other thing I would like to say is I really like the idea of golf because you're not playing football right now, but you can sure as heck still go out and golf. It's a lifetime, it has very much longevity for people. It's kind of how I always felt about swimming. Swimming was one of those things you could do your entire life. You know, there are people older than me who go to the pool and go swimming. So that's one of the things I really like about golf. And I learned how to golf at the Buffalo Golf Course in middle school. So I am kind of a fan of that. But I am concerned that we're just a little too late to get everything set up appropriately for this year. Carrie.
Alicia, as you guys know, is down at state FBLA. So we were communicating today, just kind of gathering our thoughts as far as your activities directors. And I'm going to read off my phone, but it is from Alicia. We talked last week about, just like you said, like golf being a lifelong type of sport that you can be a part of and kind of some lifelong networking connections. I think our concerns outweigh those kinds of things. We're really worried about sustainability with the budget and coaches. The equipment you guys brought up is very expensive for golf. If even 3 to 5 years down the road, the school has to start picking up those costs, that's going to be huge. We also talked about that the numbers, although there is interest and we know that there's been interest for years, the numbers are low. And a lot of times kids who say they're interested, you have 35 come to an interest meeting and you have 20 show up, so when you have 10 kids come to an interest meeting, you get kind of concerned with the sustainability with the numbers. And then our final thing that we really talked about and kind of piggybacks on Tina's comments was, and I'm just speaking pretty bluntly, I think our community has been criticizing our sports programs for a long time and our coaches, and that we don't have super strong programs, and then we're going to take more away from what we already have. I think we're concerned about that, creating strong programs and then just continuing to add more programs to what we already have. So that's kind of where we're at as activities directors.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions, concerns? Brad.
So, Madam Chair, 20 years ago, I was directed by the board to set to each activity a number that really would constitute whether it's going to be offered that school year or not cut, just offered. And if it didn't have the number off to the side of the sport, then we would just notify those students and those parents that for that year, that activity was not going to be offered. We have not followed that. And again, it's not that I hated soccer and it's not that I hate golf. But I think what you're going to have is a problematic kind of a situation with numbers eventually. Because when are we going to say no? And it's all good for kids. I'm not arguing that. The other thing to just add on to Carrie, since basketball has been over, I bet you I've had 20 to 40 conversations about that it's time to get to 2A so we can compete and we need to get rid of our coaches. So now we're going to hurry up and add another activity where coaching is always a demand. Again, I'm back to my problematic piece, and they're all good for kids. But I would tell you this, coming from Palm Springs, California, the club issue, I would not fight because I know enough people and everyone in this room does. Somebody gets older, they're done with the game. I thought I was going to do it. Here's some clubs, please take them. I believe right now in the back of the practice gym, there's probably 400 different kinds of golf clubs that people have either donated or thrown away that we've retrieved out of the garbage can to bring back here. Now, is it like Brad said, the sky's the limit? No. And the other thing I will tell you is this, you cannot buy a golf game. It's really more about you, your head in the course. That's the beauty of golf.
Okay. So would anyone like to make a motion on? Well,
Oh, they need to know for spring. I get it. I'm sorry. Yes.
yeah, we would need to know for starting it this spring. So,
Madam Chair.
Paul,
I was under the understanding what we just went through, it wouldn't be possible for us to start a team this spring.
well, that's why I wanted to know if you'd like to vote on it, or shall we just invite them to come back next fall and we can have a whole proposal. We can know who for sure coaches would be and all that kind of thing. Carrie.
Just if we're gonna pursue that, it would have to be in the August meetings, so we can get the information to the WHSAA. And if there's people who want to get their coaching over the summer, they can go, down to Casper and stuff. So we could definitely give you that information.
So shall we, Brad?
Madam Chair, I think before you would appoint a coach, I think you should probably open the position, whether it be a volunteer or a paid, so that it has a better perception about how we moved forward.
Okay, so I am going to say that we are not ready to move forward with an official first reading because there is information we still don't have, and I think we're going to be too late to get you guys up and running, especially when we don't have a real complete picture of how many kids we're looking at. So maybe July, would that be go faster than that?
I'd say the ball's rolling down the hill and we gotta just keep it rolling next year.
So then before budget, so in May. Shall we look at it again in May?
Madam Chair, my thought would be is I think what you I would recommend to the board is you just put it on for your next board meeting so that you're not just prolonging it, that we're either going to pursue it and how we're going to pursue it, or we're not going to pursue it and it ends.
Okay.
That just would be my thought.
I'm sorry.
So the next meeting, first reading.
Yeah, I would say next meeting, then we'll do it as a first reading. Since this was our sort of exploratory.
And then that's for the 24-25 school year.
Yes. Carrie.
Can I ask, is there an actual written proposal that Alicia and I could see with the details of this and kind of where that stands?
There is not, and that's what I'm asking the group for. Okay, so, and if you would like a copy of those questions, I'd be happy to share that with you so that you get that in there. This one doesn't have any scratchings on it. Oh, yes, it does. Mine does have writing on it. Okay. All right, that's what we'll do with that old business. Thank you for being here, you guys, and helping us.
Yeah. That's just not.
Okay.
So.
New business, classified resignation.
So, Madam Chair, I'm asleep at the wheel here. I would, on my place on the sheet here, I would recommend to the board, the approval of the resignation of Katie Madden and permission to post, that position.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the recommendation to approve the classified resignation as from the custodian and to post the position. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carries. Revision to board policy CCAE. That is our school district organization chart. And I went over some of this with Brad because I had questions. And so here are a couple of comments that I had. We have district patrons, then Board of Trustees. And below Board of Trustees is attorney, superintendent, and executive secretary. We both thought there should be arrows from superintendent to attorney and to executive secretary, because they're sort of floating out there all by themselves just under the board. So that would mean that because this is not just a line of communication and responsibility, it also indicates who evaluates whom. The other thing was, we thought a little section should probably be added because rec board does have some responsibilities that we take with lifeguards and supervision of the swimming pool. So that would go, kind of hard to do this here. I should have asked for a PowerPoint. So rec board would kind of go, there'd be a little square added over here that would also go to the building, swimming pool and lifeguards. So that would be here to go. And then because building principals are also responsible for special ed teachers and paras, we thought we should move special ed director over next to building principals. And there would be arrows that go from sped director to special ed teachers, as well as building principals to special ed teachers and paras. Does that make sense? Does that make sense?
Where would you move it?
We would move it over just laterally so that it would be easy to show the arrow.
Oh, just the whole section.
Yeah, the whole
Yeah.
section would just move over so we can show that arrow to the teachers. That those teachers are also under building principles.
Gotcha.
So it just moves that whole thing over where the arrow doesn't have to squiggle all the way around. And those were the only things I saw. Did anybody?
Sorry, Madam Chair, we discussed school nurse.
Oh, yes, school nurse, yeah.
But I can't remember why my question mark is there.
Probably because I asked if school nurses were under you or building principals. Or if they should have a double arrow.
Okay,
And I don't think we decided
yeah, okay. No, no, yes.
where we thought that should go. Who writes their evaluation? Brad does.
I do the evaluation with some feedback from the building principals.
So the nurse could probably get a double arrow from building principals and you.
Or good luck with
We'll
that.
have to, yeah, we'll work on something.
We can, I know. I'm not sure where we scoot that up to, but
Well, down here it does say partially responsible.
yes, it does. Anyone have anything else they'd like to add or have questions about? So if those are our revisions. Do you have a recommendation for us, Brent?
Madam Chair, I think I do. So my recommendation would be to the board, that I would approve this policy revisions based on the information that we just discussed. However, would like a other opportunity at the next board meeting to bring it forward to make sure that everyone was on the same page.
Okay, so we can just wait. We'll just wait.
That's really tabling that, or?
We'll just, yeah,
Yeah.
we'll just table that. That's fine. Is that, everybody's okay with that? And you can pass that down to him. It might help. All right, then we'll move on to school nurse resignation.
Madam Chair, I would recommend to the board the approval of the resignation of Allison Frell as the school district nurse and permission to post.
Jason?
Brad, were we running under her license?
Going to say yes.
Okay.
I think the biggest piece of that, and especially when it gets into all the state immunization questions and data and all of that stuff, it is her license that we do use.
Okay.
So that's why the reason for the certification.
Mhm.
And we still have an opening posted already.
We do. However, because of the short term of the ESSER money, I believe at this time, it really wouldn't be fair to bring in somebody this late. However, if I would have done that the first time, then I would have just transferred somebody knowing what I know tonight. But I wasn't that smart.
All right, so we have a recommendation to approve a resignation. Do I have a motion?
Move to approve?
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the resignation and post the position of school nurse. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Kitchen assistant position.
Yes, and Madam Chair, this is a little awkward because I do not have a resignation letter. However, later on, I will have a letter that I would recommend to you. But because the position being vacated in the fashion that it was vacated, I would like permission from the board to go out and post that position and get moving. We are in possession of the keys. We do know that the student has transferred, but as we speak, I do not actually have an official letter. But waiting any longer is not going to help the kitchen staff, which really doesn't help kids.
Okay, we have a recommendation to approve to approve posting a kitchen assistant position. It's been moved and seconded. Is there any discussion? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, nay. Motion carried. Reports. Bo, got anything for us?
I need a mic too.
I don't have anything now. Next time I'll probably come with a bigger one and I'm kind of right in the middle of getting the RFP ready for the refresh. So that's kind of where I'm at. So I'm hoping to have all that done. I'll have a lot more information on that one next meeting, unless you have questions for me though.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Tyler.
Thank you, Madam Chair. We did start spring sports season at the middle school this week. It's early, you gain kids, you lose kids, but it looks like about 50 kids out for track and about 50 kids out for soccer, which is about half the student body, so that's good. Today we had our last 7th grade Y-top writing test submitted, so we are done with one of about 9 other tests to go. So little victories. But kudos to the staff for making that all work, and the kids worked really, really hard. So we're hoping we can continue the success that we had last spring. Another testing thing, and I apologize, I haven't seen you guys since January, but if Brad didn't mention it to you, I did want to get something on your radar. The NAEP test that happens too often. This year especially, we just had a trend where we had a lot of students opt out of the NAEP test. And they can do that just with parent permission. They just send me a written notification, the parents do, and say, hey, I'm gonna opt my child out of testing. My impression from the state rep is that we were leading the charge in opt-outs. I need you guys to know that I don't know how to convince somebody to take more tests. I have a hard enough time getting kids motivated to do that Y-top test. So if parents don't want their kid to do another one that they never get the results from and don't have any meaning whatsoever to them in their instruction in the classroom, I'm not helping us, just so you know. But I truly, I mean, if the legislature says something or whatever, I mean, yeah, that happened. We had quite a few opt-outs this year. But that may just end up being a trend when parents realize that they have that option. So that's on your radar. And then otherwise, parent-teacher conferences, I'm sure everybody's got that on the list and everything, but next Tuesday and Thursday. And when you guys have visited, at the middle school specifically, Tuesday night's the night to see people and Thursday night's the night to get to talk to teachers, I suppose, because we have a little more downtime. But we'll be pretty busy on Tuesday. And then Brad did let the leadership team know that you guys were taking care of meals for the teachers. And so we all appreciate that. All 3 buildings appreciate that a lot. So thank you. And then unless you guys want to talk about tests some more, I think I'm done.
Okay.
Opt out. I need it in writing. There was a flurry of emails I was getting, guys. Whew.
There's one for Mr. Bell. Angie.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just have a couple reminders. The informational budget meeting will be on the 27th at 4 o'clock for those that you are on that budget team committee. And we're going to have it in Brad's office, or the curriculum office over there. District office. I don't know what you want to call it. I call it Brad's office. And then the public officer training is Monday, March 18th at 4 o'clock. If you haven't signed up yet and you want to go, call Denise Pishotti at the hospital. And that's all I have. I am still trying to get information on credit card machine. And I also reached out to First Northern about possibly like an ATM machine. So just trying to get some information and options. So that's all I have unless you have questions.
Jason.
Did they ever make that organizational specific, or is it still the big, long 8 hour that?
What organizational?
I think we have signed up for the Monday night football 4-hour session. I believe, right?
think it's 2.5.
2.5.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And they
Said four.
did amend, of course, they did amend it, but it doesn't, the amendments don't go into effect, or the last time I read it, they didn't go in effect until July 1st. Instead of when it was signed, which could have helped us, but yes, no, it's still worded that it'll be
4:00 on Monday, the 18th.
They say 4 to 8, so we get out at 6:30.
Thank you, unless there's anything else.
Thanks, Madam Chair. Just a couple updates. The subclass that we kind of kicked off at January, we have 2 people that are completed and have sent their applications into the state and 2 more that are about done. So pretty soon we'll have 4 more certified subs within the school district. So that's a help. So I think that's a good thing. There was, Bo added something to our website today, or I mean, a couple days ago at least, but I just wanted to give you a heads up on that. Underneath the news section, there is public comment that the state is asking for. And so if you're interested, it's a WDE needs assessment survey, just for feedback regarding literacy, which is going to help, I guess, inform as the state develops their state, Wyoming Comprehensive State Literacy Plan. So if you're interested in that, it's for all stakeholders to take that. So that will be on the state web or on the district website. And just a reminder that on March 21st, so next week, the comment period closes for the proposed standard changes and chapter 10 changes. So that would be for the science, the math, the computer science, PE, health, and fine and performing arts. So all of those 6 content areas, along with just some language clarification and changes in chapter 10, which is the content, Wyoming content and performance standards statute. So if you are interested in looking through what those even are, they are there as well. So that's all I have for you, unless you have more.
turning to looking at reducing.
Correct. Yep. Yep.
So
So the
that's-
list of standards that you will
Yeah.
see is very much different.
It is.
I would
very
say it's
different.
approximately close to 50% less.
Yeah.
On every single content area, roughly.
Yeah.
Is
It was-
what is there.
It was a surprise to me to see it.
Yep, it's very
'cause
different.
I did my comments.
Yep, it's very different. So, thank you.
Bo,
I just want to clarify, it actually is not up yet.
Oh.
Dr. Brzezinski was making some changes, and when those changes are done, she will get them to me, and then I will post them. as soon as
Okay.
they're just- If you're looking for it, right when you go home, it is not there.
Okay.
We're gonna make changes around this.
all right, great. Thank you.
Perfect. Thanks.
Bryce.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A few things. You should all have prom invites on your desk in front of you, so you're cordially invited to the ball. No flip flops. It is formal dress, so expect to see all of that there.
Buy your tickets before prices go up.
Yeah, what is
Hey,
that?
you guys get in for
When
free.
did prices go up?
I don't know. That was news to me when I read it the first time too. Yeah, better just see what it is. Maybe it's a penny, maybe it's $5. Something cool that our student council did and is still doing is they did an exchange with Kelly Walsh. And so kids from Kelly Walsh came here, spent the day, kind of checked out our classrooms, got to see the things that our kids experience day to day, and then also did some meetings and idea share outs. One thing that was funny, one of the kids, he's like, so you only have 2 hallways? And so I just thought, they probably have a lot more hallways than two. Yeah, that makes sense. So it'd be interesting, to attend when our kids go to Kelly Walsh a little later this school year. Because I bet we're going to be deer in headlights, especially during a passing period. And there's 1,900 kids in the hallways. It'll be real eye opening, but pretty cool experience for our kids. And so I just think that's something cool that you guys might want to know about. Tyler invited you to parent teacher conferences. Tuesday's better than Thursday if you want to see people. And obviously fall is better in spring if you want to see people too. Let's be honest. For spring sports, we have 93 kids out, which is, the most kids we've had in any season this year. So that's great. 55 kids out for track, 38 out for soccer. As Tyler said, there's always the honeymoon period at the beginning where that number does adjust. So if it stays above 90, that would be fantastic. Our student population currently is about 225. And so we're almost halfway there to getting half of the kids out for sports. And I think you guys all know that when a kid participates in athletics, they have a much higher chance of graduating from high school. Y-top and ACT, the freshmen took the writing test, and so those are getting scored now. And then eventually we'll be taking the English language arts, math and science, Y-top and ACT tests coming up as well. If you guys read your week ahead, you see those dates. If you delete it, like most of the kids do, you don't see the dates. And then one cool thing that I'm excited about that we're going to do next year on a really small scale is Sonia's talked to you guys several times about the Governor's Ride project. And in a nutshell, it's developing student-centered learning opportunities in schools. And they started this pilot program last year, and we're like, well, we're not doing that. We've been in some first-year pilot programs, and it seems to always be pretty messy. And so we opted out last year. But this year, what we learned from the schools that did it this year is to start really small. Some of the schools that really jumped in without a lot of, background knowledge or fear, it was a big undertaking for big chunks of their staff. And so what we're going to be doing is our high school science department, maybe some of our other science department members, K-12, are opting into joining this ride, not the sportsmanship ride, but joining the Governor's Ride this next year, and looking to create in our computer science and STEM classes, student-centered learning classes where it'll be mastery-based, self-paced, project-based. And so just a small example of just some ideas we've had is, if you know a lot about 3D printing, you might be done with that unit in a week. But if you don't know anything about 3D printing, you might take 5 weeks to get through that unit and to complete proficiency on that specific piece of the STEM class. And so it provides an opportunity to really meet the kids where they're at and design instruction and projects based on what their individual needs are. And again, why you have to do it on a small scale to really figure this thing out first. And so we are in the infancy stage of that right now, but it's something that our science department committed to, and I'm really excited about because I think they're going to do a great job.
And the grant request for that is what we're sending in now, right?
That was the application to get accepted into the program. And I'm pretty sure they're going to accept us because actually the deadline passed and then they sent it out one more time.
Oh.
And so I think they're also needing participants. Yeah.
Great. Thank you. Taryn?
Thank you. I think I've talked about it before, but our job coach, we contract Cindy Pearson, and she's been running a cooking club for our high school students on some early release Fridays. And so I just wanted to share with you some things. The kids were asked, what life skills has Cooking Club helped teach you? And what have you just learned by being in it? So knife safety, measuring, a new skill and hobby. I can cook for my family now. I can make good food on a small budget. It's cheaper to cook than eat out. It's healthier to cook your own food. Heat it and not burning food on the stove. Cooking meals for self, learn some different math skills, measuring, working and talking simultaneously, following directions, proper names of food, patience, being able to communicate with others, following instructions and steps to a recipe, and that cooking can be fun. So I just wanted to share some of those things that Kids are really enjoying that. I think we did 2 in the fall and we were doing 4 this spring. So we're just working. So Cindy works with a couple paras and they work with the kids who sign up and then they get to eat and enjoy and clean up. And I think they made French bread pizzas last week or something like that and chicken Alfredo before that. So
Fun.
just some really cool things that are happening with that cooking club. More boring news, we submitted our Wiser IDs. We have an out of district placement monitoring right now. So WD is looking over those files. Marin was a huge help and we finished our March 1st 684 report that goes to WDE. So that is Power School and our SPED program talking to make sure that all of the information is correct. And then like Bryce mentioned, we're gearing up for ACT and on our end, that's ACT with accommodations and you had to apply for those months ago and getting those kids ready for that. So that's what I have.
Anyone have any questions? I forgot to ask that before. Thank you.
Thank you.
Karen. Brandy?
Thank you. To start, we did start our intramural basketball program with our boys, 4th and 5th grade, and we have 28 students out, so that's fun. Also, this is a little bit of a recognition, and I'm gonna try and read it so I don't mess it up here. But our computer club in the morning that meets with Mr. Nelson and they do some coding things. They have been competing all year in the Wonder League robotics competition. And they're given missions that they have to complete by programming these little dash and dot robots that they have. I think they came a couple years ago and showed you. They've been competing in the preliminary round since October and they submitted their 4th and final prelim mission at the end of February. And we just found out that they were chosen to advance to the finals for this national competition. And so there will be one national champion for the most creative and innovative project. And then there will also be a People's Choice Award, which is selected from all the competing groups. And they'll have 1 month to design, test, and modify their final project, which will be submitted by April 12th. So good luck to them.
And maybe they can come
Yes.
show us.
I
when
bet
they're
they
all
would love
done
that.
with their
They're pretty
project.
excited about it. So
That would be fun.
good. All right, and then just giving you an update, we currently, as of today, have 43 students registered to screen for kindergarten. And that doesn't mean all 43 are going to come, but that's how many we have signed up to come and screen, and we'll go from there. So yeah, little higher than we were a little bit ago. So and then we are also wrapping up our white top writing this week. We have a couple left to do and then we'll be finished this round and then we get to start again. And since Tyler brought up NAEP, I will kind of add to that a little bit. We also had several parents opt their students out of doing it more than we've ever had before. And I don't know if you remember last year, I opted our school out of it because it took so many times with the weather and whatever to get it rescheduled. And I'll tell you, we didn't miss anything by not doing it. We don't get any kind of information from that. I know in the past I've shared with you that I'm really push with staff that if we're going to give an assessment, we need to be able to get information out of it to drive instruction. This is one of those tests that we tack on 1 million that we're already doing, and we don't get anything that helps us improve what we're doing out of it. So there's my 2 cents on it, just so when you hear right, this principal is not supportive of it, that's why.
I have to say that 10 years ago, I thought that they would be looking at providing some value
right
to it, and they have not, and that's pretty disappointing. I do think it will just fade away at some point. Jason?
Do we have to offer that? Is that why we offer it? Or can we just say we're just not even interested and just don't offer
We're
it?
randomly chosen, and last year I said we're not gonna do it, and I got a couple of phone calls from the higher ups, but ultimately they didn't take my birthday away, darn it, so yeah, we didn't get anything repercussions for not doing it.
And the same thing happened for us last year too, and it was weather and then we realized, and then when we said no. So if you guys would give us the blessing to just say no, by all means, I'll go
Right.
down that road. I'm not quite that rebellious yet, but with 9 people behind me, I can be a fighter.
Well, we, no, we can't do that tonight because there are, yeah, there's a federal tie to that somehow, I think. I'm not sure. I don't remember. Well, they'll need to be,
Parents have the voice
Right.
and we let the parents.
yeah, I think we would definitely need more information before we could do that tonight, and it's not on our agenda, so.
Right, right.
But
Just giving you my opinion on it, not needing anything.
we do hear you.
Okay. And then just, yep, we have conferences next week, Tuesday and Thursday. Are invited to come down and visit as usual. And we'll have our book fair going too, which is also a big hot topic. Book fair, I don't know if you remember that we use that book fair money primarily to fund Watiki. And just so you're aware, Watiki more than doubled our price this year, and that's the first time in 15 years. So Mrs. Heeb, kudos to her, was able to talk them down enough that we can afford it this year, but it might be something that causes us to change some plans in the future. So we'll keep working on it, but just know that's out there.
Is anybody friends with Donnie Patton? We could call him.
Tola.
Well, he married my sister on the kindergarten playground in Newcastle, so maybe she can talk to him.
There you go. There you go. But we'll see. Maybe they'll change management or something, but that's where we are right now. So
Okay.
that's all I have.
I can imagine what their water bill is.
Right.
Mr. LaCroix?
So I need to back up a little bit. I need to recognize Maren Gonzalez for she completed that civil rights report. I knew that there was quite a bit of moving parts to that thing. I'll bet you she worked almost 3 months on trying to get that thing totally ready to submit. So a big kudos to her. I would like to update the board quite a bit on what happened on Friday that caused the need for us to be in a lockdown, lockout, but because where I believe the district is going to stand in trying to press charges either locally or nationally, or we're just not able to do that at this time. But just to let you know that we will continue to pursue what we think it needs to be done from the district end. And then here's something that I need you to be thinking about. And we don't do this very often, but we're going on 3 years without a track meet. And if you look for next Thursday, I believe, it does look like it's going to snow. Now, that should not surprise anybody. But here's how you get the sun to come out. I would like you to think about the idea of doing that track meet on a Wednesday. Working with the youth groups in the community to know that this would be sort of the exception to our rule on Wednesdays. And if they would work with us and maybe start at 6:30 or 7 that night, I think would have a better chance of having a successful middle school and high school track meet at the same time. We really don't like to do that, but if we do that, then I would guarantee you on the 21st, it will probably be sunny and 65. But I did ask the administrators to reach out to the local youth groups and really work with that first and foremost. Because I think if they're involved in the front part of that, they'll be more than eager to help us work out. And maybe some kids just have to scratch an event or two if it happens to have too many teams and it goes, past 4, 5 o'clock, 5:30, which track meets can do. And especially what I'd say like a middle school track meet that early, that's probably the first track meet for a lot of those young athletes. So it takes a little bit of extra arranging. And I believe that's all I have, Madam Chair, at this time.
I would say I think it's just fine to try to move that so to accommodate for the weather. Would you like a vote on that or?
I think
And-
just as long as you're aware, I don't think we've
Yeah.
actually reached out to the youth.
Okay.
Yet, or have we?
We started that process, yeah.
Okay.
I think she was just waiting.
I don't really think we need board motion, just.
Okay.
Something that we're.
Yeah,
It really just is something that I wanted to put on your radar, because that way if you do, get some patrons that want to know why we're not honoring what we've always agreed to do on our Wednesday early out, that everyone knows what we're trying to get in front of.
okay. Board reports. Okay,
I
I'll
was gonna say, mine hasn't met.
Okay, I will say, I had the pleasure of breeding Wonky Donkey to a group of second graders who made really fun, loud donkeys. So, because they did all the hee-haw parts for me. So I really enjoyed my time at the grade school Friday and there were a lot of people running around with bright yellow giant eyebrows and mustaches and looked like Lorexes all over the place. So it was really interesting, but it was fun. And that's my only report for that. Future agenda items, we'll have an early start on March 27th. For initial continuing contract teachers and non-tenured certified staff. 5 o'clock, yes, 5 o'clock. And we will have golf on there. Okay, you all got we'll move on to discussion items. You all got the project list. And we talked a little bit about that last time. And I'm gonna need my glasses for this. Did anybody have any more questions or comments on those, Brad?
Madam Chair, I do have an update on the football field, sprinkler and possible crowning of that facility. We did receive the bid on the sprinkler system. We did ask the same contractor if they would come back with a bid while they're here to put a crown and then reseed, resod, or do whatever they do to that field. I believe they are interested in doing that. The problem is as we speak, I have not received the update. Good news is we got the first part of that. Bad news is in the contract world, it might be another month before we hear back on the other piece of it.
Okay. Did anyone have anything else? I know there were some questions about a wall, Billy.
Brad, you did answer that too. That wall did get fixed at the elementary school.
My understanding is, yes, the two things happened is the sprinkler head was fixed. The window panes, I believe even at this building now, have all been fixed. So that problem in itself should be alleviated.
Anyone have anything else on the future projects for maintenance type things? No? With that said, this meeting is adjourned at 8:34. Maybe.
Anyone need a break?
No.
I'll probably Eastern Western County Recreation Board. Oh. Okay, you guys all have an agenda in front of you. I don't have any changes.
Make a motion.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. Is there any discussions? Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Is there any recognitions? Teresa's not on, is she? Okay. Seeing none, any visitors' comments or special programs? Action items. You have the consent agenda in front of you.
Move to approve.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. Is there any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion passes. No old business, new business. Is there any further information? Go ahead, Jason.
Almost. I guess, at some point, we need to do a follow-up with that camperee with her. I see a lot of stuff going on in Gillette. They're gonna meet with the community in Gillette and stuff, so just like to see where Weston County sits as far as the last conversation we had.
If I can, Madam or Mr. Chair, I have not received any follow-up information at all. I know Teresa just got back, I believe, late last night from her daughter's wedding, so I would think she probably doesn't have any more new information, but I believe her intent is when it becomes available to her, then she'll present it to us.
And we could just ask her to update. Okay. Okay.
Is there any other information or discussion items? You sure? Not, I'll call this meeting adjourned.
In addition to the weekly printed version of the newsletter journal, we also promote our community and share important information on our award-winning website, newslj.com, and in our weekly email newsletter, Nuke Now. We also connect with readers through various social media platforms and invite you to check us out on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. You can even take a look at a recent meeting of the City Council, School Board, or County Commission on our YouTube channel. We do hope that you will go to newslj.com and subscribe today, and we look forward to making all of our great content available to you. But regardless of your level of support, we thank you from the bottom of our hearts for doing your part to preserve a free and independent local press.